In today's video, we're going to go through all the reasons you might want to move your digital assets into an LLC previous to price appreciation. All right, so you have digital assets. You've bought them at a low cost basis. Maybe you've dollar cost average over the last bear market here, and you anticipate them going up substantially in value. So, maybe that's going to be a 10x, 100x, 1000x we're all hopeful for. And to be able to mitigate the taxes when you go to take profit, it makes a lot of sense to go ahead and be in the business of investing. So we work with people at Digital Ascension Group to set up a holding company that is an LLC in Wyoming that manages those assets and allows you the full breadth of the tax code on the other side of price appreciation to be able to offset those taxes and save that money. So what does that look like? I'll just run through a scenario here. I'm going to give you an amount of XRP. This is not financial advice. Nothing here is for, investment advice. It's only for entertainment, educational purposes. Always consult with your financial advisor or Digital Wealth Partners before making any investment decisions. So let's say, over the bear market here, it could be a breadth of assets. Maybe you've got XRP, maybe you've got some Bitcoin, maybe you've got some Hedera Hashgraph, maybe you've got some Ethereum, maybe you've got Solana, whatever it is. You anticipate it's going to go up in value, and maybe it already has. And so you're starting to see those gains, and now you're looking to take profits at some point. There's a lot of people out there that discourage taking profits, or they say to sell it all. I think that's dependent on your financial position and your long-term goals. And again, you should consult with a wealth manager before making those decisions, and a CPA to be aware of the tax consequences. Let's say, you've got 100,000 of asset X and you've bought it at 50 cents and it goes to $100 a piece. All right. So now we've got $10 million and you spent $50,000 to make that investment. You get a really big capital gains tax, especially if you haven't held the assets that long. Let's say you bought them over the bear market here in the last year. Let's say, again, you've got $10 million, you paid $50,000 or you invested $50,000 to get that $10 million. When you sell, you're going to be taxed, especially you're going to be taxed at whatever income tax bracket you sell for. So let's say, you want to sell $500,000 of it or $1 million of it. You're going to be looking at 37.5 and almost, potentially up to 50% depending on what state you're residing in, that you're going to owe in taxes. But if you have those assets in an LLC, now we have the full breadth of the tax code where we can do some fun stuff to be able to offset some of those tax implications. So let's say you wanted to buy a vehicle. Well, you need to be able to drive and meet with people to discuss investments and go look at properties and the other stuff that you might invest in with the profits off of your digital assets. So you might want to buy, something over 6,000 pounds, which under Section 179 of the tax code, you could write off or fully depreciate. Again, that's something that we're looking to Trump to reinstate this year. So you can use accelerated depreciation. Let's say you put, it's a G-Wagon. You want something nice. Maybe it's a Range Rover. Okay. Those are over 6,000 pounds. That's why I see a lot of people that do well in business driving them. So you put 40,000 down, you finance the other 200,000. You can write off that full 200,000 against your income for the year. And you only had to spend 40 to get that full write-off. Some of the other ways that we look at helping people is setting up insurance policies. And this is really a fantastic way to do it because you can invest the assets themselves in kind into the policy. It takes a large amount of assets to do that. But we do have solutions for people that are looking to do it. If the assets are inside of an LLC, then you could use key employee insurance to be able to set that up because you have an insurable interest in the company. If you weren't there to make the investment decisions, the company itself wouldn't operate, right? And so, by funding that policy in kind, let's say you do want to sell $1 million. All right, well, maybe you move another $1 million and fund a policy with that amount into the insurance policy. You're going to be able to offset all of those capital gains. It's a little more complicated than that. I'm simplifying things just for the video here, but that's what we help people do at Digital Wealth Partners and Digital Ascension Group, the family office. We provide a full scope of services for people in that capacity. So there's other things that you can do with the LLC as well. If you're going to travel to any conferences that have to do with crypto or any other types of investments, I always try to correlate my trips with other things that I want to do, business I want to do in the region or the area. I'm able to write off the plane flight there, maybe some hotel and accommodations, potentially the other meals, if they are meals with other parties that I'm doing business with, any educational resources that you might have. So if you're paying for publications or podcasts or Patreon or anything that might help you make better investment decisions, all of those would be a write-off for the business. And this allows you the most flexibility on the other side of it to move the assets into a trust. So let's say, you want to set up an asset protection trust, either domestic or offshore, it wouldn't matter. The LLC, it's a single member LLC is what you want to set up. If you set up a limited partnership, you're going to be running into a change in basis and some tax implications, especially if there's been an appreciation in the assets before you move them in there. So that's why it's better to do it beforehand. But you could gift small portions of equity in the LLC to friends, family, other people that you wanted to involve or help. And you could get a valuation done on the LLC that would bring down the value of the equity, not the value of the assets, but the value of the equity. So let's say you had, again, let's make it 50 million, make 50 million digital assets. They're in the LLC, and you're going to give small portions of the equity, maybe up to 5 or 10% of the equity, to other people that you want to take care of. Now we get a valuation on the LLC, and we can bring down the value of the equity in the LLC somewhere around 30%. So now we're looking closer to $30 million in total value. And here in the US, your gift tax exemption here in 2025 over your lifetime is $13.99 million per person, or almost $28 million for a married couple. So that puts you really close and allows you to get more of the assets into a trust if you wanted to move on to that next move on the other side of price appreciation. And so these are just some of the reasons. There's a lot of reasons that you would work with professionals to set up a holding company that would manage your assets and allow you all these benefits to be able to offset taxes and protection and have protection for your assets on the other side of appreciation. And I know that there's a lot of people, people ask, like, when does this make sense? I'd say somewhere between $50,000 and $80,000 invested in digital assets is a really good time to start looking at setting up a company. There are some stipulations that you have to pay yourself a reasonable salary. It's somewhere between $50,000 and $70,000 in the U.S. to get the pass-through taxes in the S-Corp election. So again, you're going to want the appreciation within the next couple years. It really makes a lot of sense to do it this way. So if you would like help doing that, you're always welcome to reach out to us, ask us questions. You can just go to digitalfamilyoffice.io. We have the service there on the website, or you can reach out to info@digitalfamilyoffice.io with any questions you might have around this topic, and we would be happy to help you. Hopefully this has been informative for you, and we'll see you on the next one.